Please welcome Nortman, Nairi Hourdajian, and Lilliana Vazquez.
Hello, makers.
Hello.
Wow. Now, I was going to ask the room how you were feeling, but after hearing those pledges, I don't really think I have to, right? Can we get another round of applause for that? Now, as we watched this video, you heard really important words, things like rainmaker, game changer, decision maker. And as I was hearing those words, I thought, that is every single person in this room. And as a journalist, I know that words are pivotal. They mean so much to so many people, and they have the power to guide our goals, set intentions, and not just spark big ideas, but put big ideas into action. And that is why I am so excited to be sitting here with these two amazing women. Please help me welcome. I honestly, when I saw that I was sitting with you guys, I was like, how can I sit next to those two in this room? But you guys, seriously, Cara Nortman, unbelievable, round of applause. And Nairi Hourdajian, thank you so much for being here today, you guys.
Thank you.
Now, I want to kick things off on the theme of words. So as investors and partners and mentors to women, what are some words that you wish women would use more to describe themselves and talk about their business?
So, you know, I'm a venture capitalist, so I invest in early stage technology companies, and people come in and pitch you on their dream. And so the word that I would use is ambition and maybe competitiveness. I think it's okay to be competitive and to embrace that. And tell people what you're going to do, even if you don't necessarily get there. You see women kind of put forth a little bit less ambition on slides often than men, and then get penalized for that. So I think lean into your ambition, lean into your competitiveness, tell the world what you're going to do. The worst thing that can happen is you don't do it.
Exactly. What about you?
So as we were starting Allraise last year, one of our fellow founding members called one of the other VCs in the group an assassin, and I just loved that, because an assassin is strategic and surgical, gets in, gets out, gets it done. So that's my word, assassin.
I'm taking that word. I'm taking that word. Now, you talked about when you started Allraise. Tell the story of how this came to be.
Yeah, so Allraise is a nonprofit. Nairi and I are two of the co-founders of Allraise, dedicated to doubling the percentage of female funders and founders. So the venture capital industry is currently 91% male. The number of women funded by venture capital, the number of CEOs is currently 2%. So we have a lot of work to do. And we all had a bunch of bad stuff happen in our industry, similar to a lot of industries, harassment and the like, and we came together. So we got to come together for dinner. There's something we can do. Maybe we can just get a few more women hired. And we came together for a dinner. And if you had told us we were showing up and we were going to end up starting a nonprofit, I don't think any of us would have shown up. So I think the moral of the story is just go to dinner and let your intrinsic motivations take over, because I think sometimes we pull ourselves out of things by thinking about our calendar a bit too much. And so we went to a dinner, and ultimately we kind of, at that dinner, organized into a few working groups. We said, let's do some female founder office hours where we can coach budding entrepreneurs on how to pitch and how to get their next round of funding, and a number of others from there, and it kind of morphed into a full nonprofit. But the two key steps I would mention were, one, we launched our first female founder office hours with a vengeance. One of our colleagues, Jess Lee, launched the original female founders office hours and put the press machine of her firm behind it, and it just started getting people's attention. And in fact, it eventually got Forbes' attention, and they came to us and they decided to put us on the cover as I think the first group of women ever on the cover of Forbes. It was a moment in time, but...
Wow. Casual, just the cover of Forbes.
But so it was a series of events, and it started small, and it kind of just snowballed. And then what you found was you found the women who were just ready to do the work, and then the friendships ensued, and it just kept building on each other, where now I think we represent nearly all the women in venture capital, senior, junior, and aspirational. And so it's just the beginning. There's a lot to do, but it started with the dinner.
I love that story. Now, you mentioned some scary stats. What are some of the scariest stats that really got your butt in action?
that 73% of all venture capital firms don't have a single female partner or investor in this country. I am very fortunate to work at a firm that is 40% female on the investing team, including at the most senior levels. But that is not the case. And I think if you look around, you can see that, it's not just about having one woman, person of color, other at the table. It's really when you have more than one that the conversation really shifts. Founders feel the difference in the way that they pitch. The firm changes. It's the way that it deliberates and the decisions that it makes. There's more debate. That's a good thing. And so that was shocking to me because I am fortunate to work where I do.
Yeah. Now, let's get things going by shattering some of the myths, because there's a lot of myths around VC. There's a lot of myths around this pipeline model. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about why there are so few women in venture capital?
I mean, I think it's a question that everyone might have a different answer to, but I think the reason we have so few women in venture capital is because we have so few women investing. I'm a partner at a venture capital firm, and the number is 2% of CEOs are female, funded by venture capital. My personal portfolio, 6 of my 9 CEOs that I've backed, that I sit on the board of, are female. And it's not because I'm so super awesome. It's just because you resonate more with people who are like you. You're more likely to take a meeting, take an introduction, give them the benefit of the doubt, coach them, have comfort and familiarity. So one of the things I'm most passionate about within our organization and my firm is how do we get more women taking risk and putting money out at all stages? How do we train investors? And then once you get into a firm, how do you not just act like the men? Because, I think we're getting better at bringing the women into the firms, but then, we all role model to the dominant behavior. So we think we're being super woke, but we're not, because we're just acting like the white men that surround us. And so it's learning a really nuanced industry with a lot of crazy rules and norms, and then figuring out when you feel comfortable leaning into your difference and being different, and being surrounded by men who appreciate it and allow it to flourish in a very subjective field.
Absolutely. Now, I have a question for you. If there were more women, as you described, what would be different, and what does the data say about that? And can you give maybe a real-world example?
Yeah, sure. So, we want to just take as point of fact at this point, given the body of research that exists, that diverse teams perform better. Their, profit margins are higher, their growth is better, they're running a more sustainable business for the long run. So that is just incontrovertible at this point. I think what changes is, again, the conversations that you're having. And, I was very fortunate and grateful to be on the amazing early Uber team for 3.5 years. It was an incredible experience. It was building a rocket ship while you were flying it, and I absolutely loved it. I had great internal experience working with everybody. But it was an all-male, older board. And I do wonder, what would have happened if there had been 1, 2 women on that board sooner? Of course, you have heard in the past, I'm sure, from Arianna Huffington. She joined later on, but in those formative days, the earliest stages. And so I think that's one of the things we have to recognize, that VCs are part of that original nascent leadership team of companies. And I think it can have a real impact on the long-term trajectory of a company.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about collaboration, because it's something that's very important to the both of you, and it's very important to every person sitting in this room. And I think it plays a critical role in growing the number of founders and investors. But the kind of collaboration that women do really matters. So how can women collaborate more effectively?
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things that's happened in the last year, and all the terrible things that this, kind of invigorated moment has come out of, is that women are being more real, more vulnerable, more transactional, and that real friendships are forming within our industry and across industries. So we did a big partnership with Time's Up, and just getting to know the senior women in entertainment. We never had a reason to do that, because we don't do business together, but what we can learn from the way we all engage in the power structures. We can share best practices, we can kind of, derive different ways to be confident in moments that we've seen in different ways in each industry. But the collaboration that really happens, I think, when the relationships become real, and it's not the structure, you know, it's not the structured, I want to do a deal with you. It's caring about somebody and going to bat for them and taking risks. I think taking risks, pushing forward the whisper network. When you hear something negative about someone who you know, it's digging in and defending them. It's making sure they win a deal. And so the quick example I think I'd mention is sort of coming out of Allraise, we're starting to do real business together. And I don't think any of us went in thinking that would happen. One of the most, I just invested in a company called The Wing with my friend, yeah. So it's an incredible company. It's a women's social club, co-working space, event space. It's coming to LA. Everyone go find it. But it was a very competitive investment. It was led by my friend Jess Lee from Sequoia, and I remember I was at a birthday party eating pizza with my kid, one of my kids, and I got a text. Hey, do you want to invest with me in The Wing? And I said, what's the range? It was very big numbers, and within 36 hours, I was kind of in it, and she brought me in and she gave me the opportunity to do that, and every single venture firm in the country, or not everyone, but a lot of them were looking at it. And it was the first time sort of a big business moment came out of our friendships, and that's happening throughout Allraise. And it's helping each other get jobs, it's whispering.
The whisper campaign on the positive side is something that I recently heard our friends at Time's Up talk about, and I love it, and I'm asking everyone to do it. And it's whether you know someone well or not, when you're at your next event, you go over and you say, hey, do you know them? They're gonna be the next big director. They're gonna be the next big VC. They're gonna be the next thing. You should know them. And then that kind of feeds on itself. People feel like they're hearing something before everybody else. And so I think we should all be launching whisper campaigns about the people we're supporting in our world.
I could not agree more.
You have a meeting, you have anything, you say, you know who you should get to know?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is like always trying to pay it forward. I think that's a big thing, like this message of abundance that we've gotten from Abby Wambach. I think that is the message we have to keep getting into.
Definitely. Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, you know, Kara came by my office, our firm, one day, and was saying hello to a couple of the folks there. And like the first thing out of her mouth was, you know, Nairi is really amazing. You guys are really lucky to have her. And so I've actually started to put that into practice as much as I can whenever I'm around people who are in leadership positions for a particular peer or colleague, and just model that behavior. So I think it's a great way of being allies to each other.
Definitely.
And the flip side is, if you ever see a photo in the press and it's a bunch of men and you know a woman worked on that project, figure out how to bring her story forward, or you know, somebody who is not in the majority. So I overtly do that now. If I see Facebook or someone put something out and I know someone worked on it, I say, where are you? What can I tweet? You know, how do we get you?
How can I tag you in?
How do we get you in the book of life? Like, we need to write each other into the book of life. That's where the change happens.
Absolutely. And I think change also happens by asking. And one thing I know I'm guilty of is not asking enough, and not asking in a strong way that advocates for me. How do you guys craft a strong, meaningful ask?
Well, it's so important. I think as women, we're so used to thinking, I've got this, I can handle it. So one of the tricks I learned, my background was in politics before I switched to tech. And working with a lot of candidates and the trainers who train candidates, the first thing you do as a political candidate is raise money. You call all your friends and family and you ask them to give you money to run for a race you may not win. And so what women would do is, hi, I'm running for office. I was wondering if you might be able to give $10,000 to my campaign, or $8,000 or $5,000, or really whatever you can do. And so what the fundraising trainers would coach is, have a bottle of water there, and as soon as the number comes out of your mouth, you pick that bottle of water up and you start drinking, so that you don't backpedal yourself. And that is true for any ask you're making, promotion, title, comp. If you're doing it verbally, you're talking to a reporter, have a drink there, start drinking so that you don't talk.
Yeah, I love that.
And the quick thing I would add, because I'm in meetings every day where people should make an ask of me, and often they don't, is just make an ask. Worst thing I mean, if you leave a meeting where there's some follow-up that would be good for you, and you wait for the other person to offer it up, you don't get it. So just ask yourself at the end of every meeting what the ask should be. Worst case is you make the ask and you get a no. Best case is you actually move your process a lot faster.
Absolutely. Now, because you just prompted me to ask, I'm going to ask a question of the two of you. What is one thing every person in this room can do today? Because I'm all about action, right? Words are important, but actions matter. So what is one thing that every person in this room can do today to push forward equality and change in that space?
You want to go?
I will crib one from one of the amazing women I work with, Nina Shelson, one of the general partners at Canaan, and she asks all the women who come to the women's events that we host for the year, help one woman get a board role or executive role. Just get out there and make sure that that is on your to-do list, your resolution list for 2019 in a very tangible way. And so I think that's just, if we all did that this year for one person, we can really start to affect some change.
Yeah, I think the thing I would say is I look for the micro things every day. When does someone use a word to describe a woman that you know, maybe right, maybe wrong? They call them weak, or you know, something that's mildly offensive, and just pull that person aside and say something, or say it in the room. Do whatever is authentic to you in the way that you're comfortable with conflict, and then get the men to do it. Like, the more we get the men to be our allies in making the change, and we don't put the burden on ourselves, you know, that's when we change. Otherwise, we're all just yelling at each other in a vacuum.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for being a wonderful audience for this.